All right, and welcome to the Wildcat Varsity Bowling live stream, coming to you from Deshler, Ohio, where we've got the Napoleon Wildcats going against the Patrick Henry Patriots today. On lane number 5 for the girls, we've got Abby Detmer up, and she starts out with 6, hits a little light, leaves the 1, 2, 4, 10. Ella Fox is up on lane 7. And she starts with 9, leaving the 7 pin. Patriots with a strike on lane 6 to start out for the girls. We've got Mason up on lane 1 for Napoleon, and Michael Gallagher up on lane 3. Ella picks up her spare. Mason starts out with a strike. Abby picks up 3 out of the 4. Michael hits a little bit heavy and leaves the 6-10. Coming up on lane 7 for the Lady Cats will be Heather McMahon. And on lane number 5, Sydney Everly. Heather swings that one out wide, leaves the 7-10 split. Oh, Mason must have had a 10-pin stuck over there in the corner that I couldn't see. Michael picks up his spare. Mason does not. Preston Miller now up on lane number 1 for the Wildcats. And he leaves the 7, getting 9. James starts out with a strike on lane 3. Sydney's second ball gets 7, comes in just, or 6, comes in just a little bit light. Preston up on lane 1 for his spare attempt now. We've got the girls. Riley now up on lane 1. Riley gets 9, leaving the 10 pin. Ella now on lane 8. She gets a strike. Abby with 6 on her first ball gets 2. Riley picks up his spare. And that's a strike for Sydney on lane 6. Michael with 9, leaving the 2 pin. Carly up now on lane number 6. Good looking ball. That's a strike for Carly. Michael, spare attempt. Picks that one up. We've got Mason coming up for his spare attempt on lane number 2. And he picks that one up. We've got James coming up on lane number 4 and Ella coming up on lane number 7. James with a nice ball for a strike. Ella a little light, leaving the 1-2-4-7. Abby now gets heavy, but it carries for a strike. Michael up, lane number 3. Ella, spare attempt coming, lane number 7. Michael gets 9, leaving the 10 pin. Ella picks up her spare. Sydney gets 6 on her first ball, leaving the 1-2-4-7. Or, I'm sorry, that must have been her second ball. Oh, we had a missed re-rack on lane number 6. Riley now up on lane number 2. Comes in just a little bit light, leaves the 2 pin. Mason up now on lane number 1. A little bit heavy, ends up leaving the 10. James up now on lane number 3, leaves the 10 pin. They're resetting the 1-2-4-7 for Sydney on lane number 5. Ella left a 10 pin and the frame number 4 down on lane number 8. Her spare attempt coming. And she loses that one off to the right. James picked up his spare. Preston up. Sydney picks up her spare on lane number 5. Preston up on lane number 1 now. Heather down on lane number 8. Heather with a strike down on lane number 8. Preston releases his. He ends up leaving what looks like the 7 pin. Carly drifts a little bit heavy, ends up leaving the 6, 9, 10. Abby coming up now on lane number 6. Preston's got a spare attempt coming on lane number 1. Preston's spare attempt. He's successful, covers that. Abby now on lane number 6. She's a little bit light, ends up missing the head pin, leaves the 1-2-4-6-10. Carly picks up her spare on lane number 5. Riley now up on lane number 1. Nice ball for a strike. Michael just a little bit heavy, ends up leaving the 6, 9, 10. Abby's spare attempt. And she picks that up. That's a nice spare for Abby. We've got Mason now up on lane number 2. Michael spare attempt on lane number 4. Ella with a spare attempt. She got 7 on her first ball. Mason drifts a little bit heavy, leaves the 6, 10. Ella ends up getting 2 out of the 3. Michael ended up with a spare for that past frame. Heather's up on lane number 7. James up on lane number 4. Mason up on lane number 2. Heather with a strike. James with a strike. Mason picks up his spare. Sydney got 6 on her first ball, picks up the spare, the 1-2-4-7. Ella Fox up on lane number 8. That's a strike for her. Carly up now on lane number 6. Preston up on lane number 2. Preston with a strike. Carly with a strike. Michael Gallagher up now on lane number 3. Michael with a nice ball in the pocket for a strike. Riley up next door on lane number 2. Heather down on lane number 8. Riley's ball is away. That's a strike for Riley. And another strike for Heather. That's 5 in a row now for Heather. Abby up on lane number 5. That looks just a little bit light. Ends up getting 6, leaving the 2, 4, 5, 8. James leaving, is that the 6 pin? Or the 4 pin, I mean? Yeah, 4 pin. Mason now on lane number 1. And he cannot get the 10 pin to fall. Abby with her spare attempt, nicely done. James taking aim at the 4 pin. Covers that one. We got Sydney up now on lane number 5. Mason with a spare attempt coming on lane number 1. Sydney's just a little light, misses the head pin, leaves the 1, 2, 4. Mason misses his spare to the right. Ella up now, lane number 7, balls away. Leaving the 7 pin, gets 9. Preston down on lane number 1, and he splits, leaving the 4, 6, 10. Sydney picks up 1 additional pin on her spare attempt. Ellis taking aim at the 7. Misses it inside. Carly up now, lane 5. Ends up leaving the 2, 4, 5. Preston picks up 1 more pin in his spare attempt. Heather now on lane number 7. Another strike for Heather. Abby, lane number 6, leaving a 10 pin. Riley with a strike down on lane number 1. That's 3 in a row for him. Carly picks up 2 out of the 3 on her spare attempt. Michael looking at a split spare here, or split for a spare attempt here with the 2, 6, 7. Or 3, 6, 7, I'm sorry. Good attempt. He gets 2 of them. Mason with 8, leaving the 2, 8. Abby picks up the spare. That was on lane number 6. We've got Sydney now on lane number 6. Ella down on lane number 8. Ella's ball's away. And that's a strike for her. Sydney comes in just a little bit light. Ends up leaving the 1, 2, 8, or 1, 2, 8, 10. James with 9 on lane number 4, leaving the, what it looks to be the 2 pin. Heather up on lane number 8. And that's another strike for Heather. James picks up his spare. Preston now on lane number 2. Carly on lane number 6. Preston's ball drifts a little bit heavy, ends up leaving the 6-9-10. Carly gets 8, leaving the 4-9. Michael's up now on lane number 3. And he ends up leaving the 9 pin. Carly's spare attempt. Picks up 1 additional pin. Preston with a spare down on lane number 2. We got Abby coming up on lane number 5 now. Nice strike by the Patrick Henry girls on lane number 7. That's 2 in a row for her. Abby's just a little light, ends up splitting, leaving the 2-4-10. Michael picks up his spare on lane number 3. Riley with a nice strike down on lane number 2. We've got Mason coming up now, or James, I'm sorry. James coming up on 3 first. Mason will be right behind him on lane number 1. James with a strike on lane number 3. Ella down on lane number 7. The 4-pin wobbles and wobbles, but it will not go down. Mason with a strike down on lane number 1. We got Preston coming up now on lane number 1. We got Sydney getting ready on lane number 5. Ella will be coming up with her spare attempt on lane number 7. So we got Ella and Sydney going at about the same time. Sydney with a strike on the Brooklyn side, the 1-2 pocket. Ella picks up her spare. Preston now down on lane number 1. And he crosses over and hits the 1-2 pocket, but gets the strike. Carly up on lane number 5. Heather up on lane number 7. Carly splits again. Heather with another strike. Carly left with a 4-9. Heather with 8 strikes in a row after an open in the first frame. Ella with a strike now down on lane number 8. Riley leaves the 10 pin down on lane number 1. Sydney up now on lane number 6. Crosses over to the 1-2 pocket, gets 8, leaving the 5-9. James gets 9, leaving the 6 pin. Riley can't pick up his spare down on lane number 1. Ella up on lane number 8, leaving a 10 pin. James, spare attempt, covers it. Sydney, her spare attempt coming now. She gets that one started out a little too far right. Mason up now on lane number 2. Mason with a strike. Ella, 10 pin spare. And she loses that one to the right. And Ella finishes with a 164. Mason still going. Preston splits. Again, looks like the 4-9 down there. Heather up now, lane number 8. Michael with a strike over on lane number 3. Heather with a strike on lane number 8. Carly picks up a spare on lane number 6, the 7 pin. Preston picks up 1 additional pin on lane number 2. Abby up now on lane number 5. Patrick Henry's bowler on the 7-8 pair finishes with a 181. Another strike for Heather down on lane number 8. James up on lane number 3. Comes in a little bit light, ends up leaving the 2-4-10. Sydney gets 7, leaves the 2-4-5. Riley picks up his spare on lane number 2. Another strike for Heather. 11 in a row now down on lane number 8. And she finishes with a 278 game. 11 strikes in a row. Way to go, Heather. Sydney picks up her spare on lane number 5. Mason down on lane number 1 gets a strike. Michael now on lane number 4. Comes in a little light, gets 6. The second Patrick Henry bowler on the 7-8 pair finished with a 199. Carly with a strike on lane number 5 just a moment ago. Preston down on lane number 1, comes in a little light, gets 6, ends up leaving the 1-2-4-8. Michael gets all but 1 and will finish with a 177. Abby coming up on lane number 6, waiting for a Patrick Henry bowler. James up on lane number 4. Preston with his spare attempt. Abby leaves the 6-10, gets 8. Preston gets all but 1 in his spare attempt. James gets a strike now on lane number 4. Riley now down on lane number 1. And that's 9, leaving the 10 pin. Abby picks up her spare, it hangs on. James on lane number 4 with the strike. That's 2 in a row for him in the 10th. Riley spare attempt coming on lane number 1. Picks that up. Abby, lane number 6, a little heavy, ends up leaving the 310. And that'll finish her game. She finishes with a 164. And a final strike, 3 strikes in a row for James, finished with a 204. Mason with a strike on lane number 2. Patrick Henry bowlers on lady bowlers on 5 and 6 finished with a score of 128 and 111, and on the 7-8 pair they had 181, 199, and 151. Sydney comes in a little bit light, leaves the 1-2-4-10 split. Or Mason picks up a spare down on lane number 2. He'll get one more ball in the 10th. All right, looks like we lost video for just a moment. Hopefully it's back now. Give me a shout out if you can hear me and see me again. Sydney finishes with a 125. Preston can't complete a spare. He'll finish with a 131, or I'm sorry, 140. Sorry about that. Evidently something came loose on the camera. Riley up now on lane number 2. Gets 9. All right, I'm just updating the scores here. So we have Abby with 164, Sydney with 125, Carly with 181, Ella with 164, Heather with 278, Patrick Henry girls had 128, 111, 181, 199, and 151. On the boys' side, we've got Mason with 179, Preston with a 140, Riley with a 212, Michael with a 177, and James with a 204. Patrick Henry boys had a 160, a 125, a 167, a 122, and a 157. All right. Abby's up. Abby with a strike. That's 2 in a row for her. We got Jalen down on lane number 7. She gets 8, leaves the 6-10. Give me just a minute. I'm trying to update the scores here on the screen. All right, Carly picked up her spare just a moment ago on lane number 5. We've got Elijah up on lane number 4. Comes in a little light. Ends up leaving the 2-7. Heather now up on lane number 7. Gets the strike. Riley now up on lane number 2. He gets a strike. Nice ball from Riley. Elijah pulls that one, gets 1. Got James coming up now on lane number 4. Nice looking ball from James for a strike, right in the 1-3 pocket. Carly with a strike. That's on lane number 6. Jalen with a strike down on lane number 8. That's 3 in a row for her now. Elijah up lane number 3. Mason up lane number 1. A strike for Elijah and a strike for Mason. Heather now up on lane number 8. And Heather gets a split. The 6 pin goes down, but it still leaves the 7 and the 10. I'm sure she'd much rather have the 7 fall than the 6, but Preston up now on lane number 1. James up on lane number 3. Preston, the 7 pin falls late for a strike. James gets the strike on lane 3. Abby with another strike. That's 4 in a row now for Abby. Riley coming up in lane number 1. Sydney up on lane number 5. Sydney ends up leaving the 4-9. Riley gets 9, leaving the 10 pin. Jalen up on lane number 7. Riley, spare attempt, covers it. Jalen's ball hits the pocket for a strike. Sydney very close to picking up that spare, but just misses the 4 pin. Elijah up now on lane number 4. Mason on lane number 2. Elijah leaves the 10 pin on a good looking ball. Mason ends up getting 6, leaving a cluster in the corner, the 3, 6, 9, 10. Carly with a strike. That's 2 in a row now for her. Elijah's spare attempt coming on lane number 4. Mason spare coming on lane number 2. Elijah misses it to the right. Mason picks up his. Abby crosses over the head pin, picks up the Brooklyn for another strike. Now 5 in a row. Preston up lane number 2. He hits a little bit light. Gets 7. Leaving the, looks like the 2, 4, 5. Sydney up, lane number 6. Pulls that one a little bit. Crosses over for a Brooklyn strike though. Jalen with 5 in a row down on lane number 8 now. Preston, spare attempt coming. Heather up on lane number 8. And Preston picks up his spare, nicely done. Heather's ball on its way. Leaves the 4-pin, gets 9. Carly up now, lane number 6. Elijah up on lane number 3. Carly gets a split, leaving the 5-7, just a little baby split. Elijah with a strike on lane number 3. Heather picks up her spare down on lane number 8. Riley with a nice looking strike on lane number 2. Pins just exploding everywhere. Strike for Patrick Henry down on lane 4. James up now, lane number 3. And there's a strike for James. Mason up now on lane number 1. And he's left with the 2-9 maybe? Can't tell if it's a 2-9 or the 4-9. Looks like maybe the 4-9. Abby leaving a 10-pin. Jalen up now on lane number 7. And a strike for Jalen on lane number 7. That's 6 in a row now. Mason, spare attempt coming. Picks up 1 out of the 2. Abby waiting for a partial re-rack here on lane number 5. Heather on lane number 7. There's a strike for Heather. Preston up, lane number 1. Nice strike from Preston. Abby finally gets the 10-pin reset. Waiting for the Patrick Henry bowlers on either side of her. Riley coming up on lane number 1. Abby loses that one to the right. Riley with a nice strike down on lane number 1. Jalen now up on lane number 8. Elijah up on lane number 4. Jalen with a strike. Elijah gets the split, leaving the 2-10. Mason on lane number 2. Sydney just bowled on lane number 5. Gets a late pinfall. Ends up leaving the 1-3. Gets 8. Mason leaving the 2, 8, 10. Gets 7. Elijah picks up 1 of the 2. Heather gets 9, leaving the, looks like the 4-pin. Yep. Sydney, spare attempt. Got it. James now, lane number 4. Nice ball for a strike from James. Heather picks up the spare. Mason picks up 2 out of the 3. Well done. That's a tough spare to convert. Carly now comes in a little bit light, ends up leaving the 2-4-5. Abby with a nice ball for a strike down on lane number 6. Preston with a strike on lane number 2. Elijah up on lane 3. Carly with her spare attempt on lane 5. Carly picks it up. And Elijah can't get the 10 pin to fall down. Gets 9. Riley with a nice strike over on lane number 2. Jalen leaving a 10 pin on lane number 7. Sydney up on lane number 6. Comes in a little light, leaving the 2-4-5. Elijah picks up his spare. Mason gets the 10 pin to fall late and gets the strike down on lane 1. Jalen picks up her spare. Sydney spare attempt. Nice ball for a spare from Sydney. Jaylin gets 9, leaving a 4 pin. And she finishes with a 246. Nice game, Jalen. James with a strike down on lane number 3. Carly up on lane number 6. Can't get the 7 pin to go down. Good looking ball from Carly, but gets 9. Riley down on lane number 1. Gets a strike. Heather up here on lane number 7. Comes in just a little bit light. Gets lots of pins to fall, all except for the 2 pin. Gets 9 on that. Carly picks up her spare. Heather's pins were just kind of falling in slow motion. Takes aim at the 2 pin. Converts that. Heather will have one more ball in her 10th frame. Abby's on her 8th frame, working on a strike in the 7th. Comes in a little bit light, ends up leaving a 2-4-5. And Heather finishes with 9, taps the 2 pin but can't get it to fall. And Heather will finish with a 181. The other Patrick Henry bowlers on the 7-8 pair. The first bowler finished with a 214, the second bowler with a 169, and the final bowler finishes with a 135. James is up now on lane number 4. Gets the strike. Sydney up on lane number 5. Mason up on lane number 2. Mason with a strike on lane number 2. Sydney with a strike on lane number 5. That'll bring up Preston on lane number 2 and Carly now on lane number 5. Preston lets his go. Leaves the 4 pin, gets 9. Carly gets 9, leaving the 7 pin. Nice strike there from Patrick Henry boys on the lane number 4. Preston now, spare attempt. Converts. Carly can't quite hang on to the spare. Elijah now on lane number 3. Abby gets 7 on lane number 6, leaving the 3-6-9. Elijah with 6 down on lane number 3. Riley can't convert his spare. Mason got 7 on his first ball. Abby picks up the spare on lane number 6. James gets 8, leaving the 6-10. Mason picks up 2. Sydney gets 9, leaving the 4-pin. James finishes with a 232. Elijah finished with a 148. Mason finished with a 176. Preston finished with a 232. Carly with a 4-6-7-10 split picks up 2 of those. Riley up on lane number 1. Leaves the 4-pin. Abby has a strike to start the 10th frame. This will be her next second ball. And she gets a 7-10 split. Riley finishes with a 201. Abby finishes with a 223 game. Sydney up now. She gets a strike, working on a spare in the 9th frame. So to recap the boys' scores, I've got Mason with a 176, Preston with a 232, Riley with a 201, James with a 232, and Elijah with a 148. Patrick Henry boys had a 159, 179, 178, 197, and 137. Sydney's last ball, 10th frame, gets 8, and she finishes with a 181. Patrick Henry girls finished with scores of 145, 169, 214, 169, and 135. Carly gets 9 to start the 10th frame. Picks up the spare. Carly's last ball on its way. And she gets the strike and will finish with a 179. So Napoleon girls finish Abby with a 223, Sydney with a 181, Carly with a 179, Jalen with a 246, and Heather with a 181. All right, so I've got the Napoleon boys at games at 912, 989 for a total of 1901. Patrick Henry boys had 731 and 850 for a total of 1581. So the boys have started out, well, they're in the 4th frame of the Bakers. They start out with a strike, a 9, and 2 strikes. Patrick Henry's 4th bowler is up, comes in a little light, gets 8, leaving the 2-8. Napoleon girls had games of 9-12 and 10-10 for a total of 19-22. Patrick Henry girls with games of 770 and 832 for a total of 1602. Patrick Henry girls pick up their spare down on lane 8. Abby misses to the right on her spare attempt. Patrick Henry with a nice spare on lane number 4 for the boys. Riley's up now. Picks up the spare. Sydney up next for the girls, frame number 2. Patrick Henry boys come in a little bit light, ends up leaving the 2-8-10. Sydney ends up leaving a 6-pin. Patrick Henry girls with 9, leaving the 7-pin. Mason up now for the boys with a strike. Sydney picks up her spare. Patrick Henry gets 1, and for the boys. Elijah Wolf up now, and for the boys. Patrick Henry girls convert their spare down on lane number 8. Elijah Light gets 6. Ella Fox up now on lane number 7. Ella's bowling the 3rd frame. Can't get the 10-pin to go down. Good looking ball. And a strike for the boys and a strike for the Patrick Henry girls. So Patrick Henry boys and girls with a strike in that frame. Elijah now with his spare attempt. Picks it up. Ella with a spare attempt on the way. Nice. Patrick Henry boys with another strike. That's 2 in a row on lane number 4. The Patrick Henry girls with another strike as well. That's a double for them. Heather coming up for the girls for Napoleon on lane 7. James for the boys on lane 3. James leaves all but the 7, or gets all but the 7. Heather gets 8, leaving the 4-7. And that's 3 in a row now for the Patrick Henry girls. Patrick Henry boys with 3 in a row as well. James and Heather both pick up their spares for Napoleon. Patrick Henry, boys and girls, prepare to bowl. The boys miss the head pin, leave the 1-2-4, get 7. Jalen gets 9, leaving the 7-pin. Patrick Henry girls leave the 1-3-6-9, or I'm sorry, the 1-3-6-10. Michael gets 9, leaves a 7-pin. Patrick Henry girls pick up 3 of the 4. Patrick Henry boys get 2 out of the 3. Jalen picks up her spare. Michael's spare attempt on the way. Converts. Patrick Henry girls leave the 6-10. Get 8. Abby's back up. 6th frame for the girls. Gets 8, leaving the 4-7. Riley's up for the boys. Was a little bit light, but got some carry and got the strike. That's strike in the 10th for the boys. Patrick Henry tries to convert their split. Misses just a little bit to the left. Abby picks up her spare down on lane 7. Patrick Henry girls leave a 7-pin, get 9. Patrick Henry boys finish their first Baker game with a score of 166. Sydney leaves the 3-9. Riley leaving a 10-pin. And the boys will finish the first Baker game with a 204. Patrick Henry girls with a spare in the 9th frame. Sydney, spare attempt underway. Gets 1. Patrick Henry girls leave the 4-7, get 8 to start the 10th. Ella's coming up for the Napoleon girls in the 8th frame. Patrick Henry's boys and Napoleon's boys will switch lanes to start the second Baker game. And a strike for Ella down on lane number 7. Patrick Henry girls only get 1 in the spare, and they will finish with a 190. Heather now coming up in the number 4 slot, her second time in this first Baker game. And she gets a strike. That's 2 in a row now for Napoleon girls. Mason up now for the boys to start the second Baker game. And he starts out with a strike. Jalen up for the girls in the 10th to finish out the first Baker game for them. And she gets 9, can't get the 10-pin to go down. Elijah up next. Just as a reminder, we have the format of this match is the 2 individual matches where each of the 5 members bowl individual games, followed by 3 Baker games. Elijah leaves a 10-pin on lane number 4, where the bowlers will take turns bowling alternate frames, and then total pins will win the match. Jalen picks up her spare. Now she's got her final ball, 10th frame. And gets 9 again. And the Napoleon girls will finish the first Baker game with a 178. Preston now leaves the 10-pin. James, lane number 4, gets 9, leaves the 10-pin. Abby gets the split down on lane 8, leaving the 6, 7, 10. Got Sydney up on lane number 6. Michael up on lane number, I'm sorry, Sydney's up on lane number 8. Michael's up on lane number 4. Michael gets the 6-7 split. Sydney gets 9, leaves the 10 pin. Michael tries to convert his split, misses to the right. Sydney misses her spare inside. At the end of the first Baker game, I've got Napoleon boys leading 2105 to 1747. Napoleon girls leading 2100 to 1792. These are unofficial. We'll double check them at the end here. Mason with a strike on lane 4. Ella leaving the 3-6-10. Patrick Henry girls with a strike. Patrick Henry boys leaving a 10 pin. Elijah up now. Elijah coming in heavy. Gets 6, leaves the 3-6-9-10. Patrick Henry boys leaving the 2-8. Ella's spare attempt, picked it up. Patrick Henry girls leave the 5-7. Elijah coming up for his spare attempt. Heather gets 8, leaving the 4-7. Preston with a strike. James up now, lane number 4. Heather picks up her spare. James gets 8, leaves the 4-7. Jalen up now for the girls, lane 8. Patrick Henry leaving the 2-4-10. James looks good, converts. Jalen gets 9, leaves the 10 pin. Jalen picks up her 10 pin. Patrick Henry boys get 2 out of the 3. Michael up now. Lane number 4 for the boys. Ends up leaving the 4 pin, gets 9. Abby up to start the 6th frame for the girls. And Abby with a strike. Nice ball. Strike for the Patrick Henry boys over on lane 3. Michael picks up his spare. Sydney will be up next for the girls. Patrick Henry boys with another strike. That's 2 in a row in the 10th for them. Sydney leaving a 6-pin. Michael finishes with a strike, and they'll finish the second Baker game with a 150. And Patrick Henry finishes with 3 strikes in the 10th to finish with a 146. Sydney picks up her spare. And Patrick Henry girls pick up their spare. Patrick Henry coming into the 10th frame of the second Baker game. Ella will be up to start the 8th frame for the Napoleon girls. The boys switch one last time to start the third Baker game. Patrick Henry girls leave the 3-6-10, get 7. Ella ends up splitting, leaving the 4-6-7. Patrick Henry leaves the 2-4-5-8 on lane number 4. Mason up for the boys to start the third Baker. He starts out with a strike. Patrick Henry girls will finish with a 133 in the second Baker game. Alla picks up 2 out of the 3. That'll bring up Heather. We got Elijah. Leaving the 4-7. Patrick Henry boys got their spare in the first frame. Heather up in the 9th frame now. And Patrick Henry boys leave the 2-8-10. Heather with a strike down on lane number 8. Elijah picks up his spare. Patrick Henry doesn't get any more pins on their spare attempt. Riley up now. Jalen for the girls. And there's a strike for Jalen. And a strike for Riley. Nice ball from Patrick Henry boys on lane 4 for a strike. James up now, lane number 3. Crosses over, hits the 1-2 pocket for a Brooklyn strike. And Patrick Henry gets unlucky and ends up leaving a split, the 6-8. Michael up now for the boys. Comes in a little light, gets 5. Jalen getting 4. And Patrick Henry, nicely done, picks up the spare. Michael, spare attempt, picks his up, very nicely done. 2 difficult spares picked up, one by Patrick Henry, one by Napoleon. There's a strike for the Patrick Henry boys. Jalen gets an additional couple pins, leaving 2. And Napoleon girls will finish with a 165 in the second Baker game. Elijah up now, comes in a little bit light, gets 9, leaves the 8-pin. There's a strike for Patrick Henry boys. And the girls will get started with their third Baker game. Patrick Henry girls start out with 8. Abby up for Napoleon. Leave the 6-pin, gets 9. So currently I have the Napoleon boys ahead 22-55 to 18-93 over Patrick Henry. And the Napoleon girls 22-65 over the Patrick Henry girls at 19-25. Abby cannot convert her spare. Riley gets 9 on his first ball, leaves the 4-pin. Patrick Henry leaving a split. It's the, looks like the 6-7. No, actually that's not. That's the 9-7, 7-9. Carly leaves the 4-9 split. Patrick Henry left with us boys with a split, the 4-6, 7-8, 10. Picks up 4. Very good attempt at that. That's a difficult spare. James with a nice ball for a strike. Patrick Henry leaving the 3-pin. Ella leaving the 10-pin. Michael up now for Napoleon. And he leaves the 4-pin. Patrick Henry can't convert their spare for the boys' side. And they will finish the third Baker game with a total of 166. Alla picks up her spare. Michael picked up his spare. He's got one more ball. Patrick Henry girls with 8, leaving the 6-10. Michael now, his ball underway. And he gets a strike. And the boys will finish with a third Baker game total of 204. Heather with a strike for Napoleon girls. And Patrick Henry girls pick up their spare down on lane number 8. Jalen, fifth bowler for Napoleon, with a strike. That's back-to-back strikes now for the Napoleon girls. And a split for the Patrick Henry girls, the 4-7-10. All right, so I have scores of 912 and 989 for the Napoleon boys in the individuals, and that's for a total of 1901. And then Baker games of 204, 150, and 204 for a total of 558. And that gives them a grand total of 2459. For Patrick Henry, I have scores of 731 and 850. With Baker games of 166, 146, and 166 for a total of 478 for a grand total of 2059. Carly with a strike for the Napoleon girls. Patrick Henry converts their spare. Nicely done. Ella up now, 8th frame. And there's a strike for Napoleon. That'll be 2 in a row now. Patrick Henry girls lead the 10-pin. They're in the 7th frame. Heather up for Napoleon in the 9th frame. She comes in a little bit light, misses the head pin, leaves the 1, 2, 8, and 10. Patrick Henry can't convert. Patrick Henry, a little light, gets 6, it looks like. Leaving the 1, 2, 8, and 9. Heather with a conversion picks that up. She's as surprised as anybody. Patrick Henry's spare attempt underway down on lane 8. And they get 3 out of the 4. Jalen up in the 10th frame. Gets 8, leaves a 6-10. Patrick Henry getting 7. Looks like they leave the 6, 9, 10. And Jalen picks up the spare. And Patrick Henry girls pick up their spare, so that's a spare for them in the 9th frame. Jalen, last ball, 10th frame. Gets 9. So Napoleon girls will finish the 3rd Baker game with a total of 189. Patrick Henry getting ready to start the 10th frame. And she starts it out with 9, leaving the 8 pin. Spare attempt upcoming. And she gets it. Nicely done. So she'll get 1 more in the 10th. And she gets 7 in her final ball. And they finish with a 125. So we will update the scores here for you, and we'll confirm the girls' score. So I have the final score: Napoleon boys 24-59 over Patrick Henry 20-59, and Napoleon girls with 24-54 to the Patrick Henry girls 20-50. Again, we'll confirm the girls' score here momentarily. All right, just confirming the scores here. We have Napoleon girls with 9-12 and 10-10 for a total of 19-22, with Baker games of 178, 165, and 189. That's 532 for the Bakers, and that's 24-54 is the total. Patrick Henry 770 and 832 for 1602 in the individual, and with Baker games of 190, 133, and 125 for a total of 448 in the Bakers, and a grand total of 2050. So I would like to thank everybody for joining the live stream today and continuing your support for the girls and boys bowling team. This is the last match of the regular season. We have sectionals upcoming on Friday and Saturday. Friday for the girls starting at about 5 o'clock, and Saturday for the boys starting at noon. And we'll have those on the live stream, so everybody come out and join us and show your support. This has been Wildcat Varsity Bowling, and I appreciate everybody joining. Go Wildcats!